Hello and welcome to the holiday versions of the Get At It Gaming Plus podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ben,
I'm Alex.
and happy holidays. This is our podcast. They're going to come out in November and December. Uh, Alex and I take a very long 2 month break from podcasting because it's been a crazy year.
Yeah.
And so we want to take some time off. Usually that's the best time. So we pre-record these, but we are not going to leave you alone during the holidays without listening to us on those road trips. So we have pre-recorded episodes for you guys because that's how awesome we are. And this
So
one,
humble. So humble.
we are very. So this one here, we're excited to kind of talk about when you are at Thanksgiving or you're at Christmas and you are like, gosh, I've had enough family time. There's always that downtime of like, what do you want to do? So Alex and I have came up with some lists of five each shows that we think you should binge watch. Um, Neither one of us know the shows. As soon as I go through my list, Alex can be like, "Yeah, this is not shocking," uh, but we don't know the list, so it's gonna be an interesting conversations. And yeah, I'm gonna make you start, Alex.
Okay. Um,
He's like, I was not ready for that.
what do I want to do?
Oh, and these are not in order of like what's the best and what's not the best.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I have them on I have like number 1 through 5, but I just did it
I'm
so I
probably
can
gonna
keep
skip
track.
around as well. Like I have them
All right.
in a certain order, but I'm probably gonna skip around as well. Let's see. So I guess I would say you said Thanksgiving. You know what Thanksgiving reminds me a lot of? Reminds me
What's
a
that?
lot of when I visit when I used to visit my aunt and uncle and like a bunch of like my mom's side of the family. And one thing that my uncle and I always talked about was a show that I got him into when I was in high school. Yeah, had to think about that for a second. Um, it's an NBC show that got canceled and then came back, and then they just had a bunch of Subway marketing. Do you know what I'm talking about yet?
I want to say I don't want to say it because if I'm wrong, then I look stupid on the podcast. But
Okay.
I have a
Okay. So
very
so this show in particular, also ignore me video people because I am just poking at my eyes because I have something in my eye. But this show is a comedy slash action show. It stars a younger Zachary Levi, um, has an Adam Baldwin and Yvonne Strahovski, I believe her name was, um, and some other people and stuff. And this is a spy show. It's called Chuck. Chuck is one of my favorite live action shows. I've always really enjoyed it a lot. The pilot, I think, is perfect from like start to finish. I think is a perfect episode. Like even if you don't enjoy, even if like you don't want to like watch the show like entirely, just watch the pilot because I think the pilot is interesting and it gives you a little bit of a cliffhanger, obviously since it's a pilot, but like it is a complete enough start to finish story that like leaves you wanting more, obviously, but it really does introduce right at the end like, hey, this is the issue. Are we going to do this thing? um have you, what's your experience with Chuck? Have you ever watched Chuck before?
no, but I know what Chuck is,
Okay.
and it's so funny because that's not where I thought you were going with
Okay.
it, but it's okay.
Okay.
Uh, no, I know that's like Zachary Levi's like
First
big,
thing.
yeah, that's like his first kind of big thing, and it has to do where he kind of gets wrapped up into something and he doesn't want to get wrapped up in it. Um, yeah, I've never actually watched it.
Mhm.
I know you can stream it now, right?
It keeps
Is it
appearing and disappearing from things. Last I checked, I think it was on Max, and then it was on like Amazon, and then it went to Hulu, and then it went to all these other places. It's one of those things that just keep topping around places. So if you look around hard enough, I'm sure you'll find it. I have it all on DVD. I'm looking to maybe get it on Blu-ray eventually. I saw a copy on it for Blu-ray recently. That was fairly cheap, but it was way too high, and so I couldn't pick it up. And so I didn't want to deal with it. But it looks like I can buy it on Blu-ray for fairly cheap, just the whole show. So the show is 5 seasons long, 91 episodes, and that is a lot because they're about 40 minutes each, but it's very enjoyable. There is a slow season, and then it just kind of gets weird during that last season, just as shows do. But the show kind of ended weirdly because it feels like they knew that they were going to get canceled, so they tried to wrap things up in a different way before they got canceled, just in case. I know Zachary Levi has said multiple times that he really wants to do a Chuck movie. Like, people are interested in doing a Chuck movie because like Psych got a movie and like all that kind of stuff, you know. So like they would love to do something like that. I don't know how well Zachary Levi though is received as of late, just because of his whole political nonsense and vaccination versus non-vaccination stuff, and just that kind of stuff, to where like he's more I don't know, he's in a certain position right now to where I don't think anyone really wants to deal with them unless you're already in a deal with him. And then I've also seen some things where like he's kind of insulted like DC to a degree, he's kind of insulted Marvel to a degree, and all that. So I don't know what his plan is. But I liked him in Shazam. I liked him in the first Shazam. But I really do like him in Chuck. I think he plays it very, very well. I'll give you all the base premise of Chuck. Chuck is a show where a guy works at a Best Buy. It's called a Buy More. And he is a 20-something college dropout. And he works at a Best Buy, and he gets an email from his old college roommate, Bryce, who sends him an email that's encrypted. And so Bryce is like a super spy agent now. So Chuck opens the email and it says, there's a troll ahead of you or something like that. And he's like, oh, I know what this is. We made our own version of Zork back in college. So it's kind of like a text adventure game. And he says, what is it? Destroy troll with nasty knife or something like that. And what happens is it unlocks the email, and then all these images just get downloaded into Chuck's brain. And so Chuck now just has this database of NSA and CIA information. And so now he is an asset that people want to use for good or for bad. And so as the show goes on, the NSA and CIA have to like take him with him on missions because he might have a flash, which is just like a photographic memory realization. Like he'll like see a picture of a donkey, and all of a sudden he'll be like, oh, Watergate happened and this is what happened in it. Like he'll just like know very like weird specific things that like were only in these documents because they hid things in like normal pictures, but because it's all encoded, it's like looking at like one of those like puzzles where it's like, here's a picture of Homer Simpson, but each puzzle piece is an episode. It's like that kind of thing, you know, like where it's things hidden within images, within videos. And so he just has all this knowledge, and then he just kind of becomes an asset, becomes a spy, and it's just about him trying to juggle his Best Buy life with his friends and like his family, and like not tell him that he's a spy. And so it's a really fun time. And again, like the show kind of gets weird to a degree. But there's really cool like special guests and stuff that have been in it, and it was a show that I used to talk to with my history teacher a lot, because at the time, like when Chuck was airing, that was like a show that like my dad and I would watch, and even my younger sister, who was like way too young for that show at the time, but she really liked it. And she we all watched it, and then my history teacher in high school also watched it. So there was like Chuck was on like Tuesdays or something. And so Wednesday morning in history class, like before class or after class, we'd be like, "Hey, so the episode Chuck, right?" And we talk about it, and it was a fun time. And then to get back to how I got into all this in the first, or how I segued initially, my uncle and I used to introduce shows to my uncle. I don't know if he knew really The Office, but like I had like seasons on DVD, or I had Chuck on DVD, and so I would watch it, and then Thanksgiving is when I saw him the most, and so I would just leave it there, and he would borrow it, and then next family event he would give it back to me, because I didn't really care when I got it back, because I already watched it live, you know. I was kind of
Yeah.
just it was kind of just early me collecting. So yeah, Chuck is an amazing show. The the side characters and the side cast are excellent as well. They're very well utilized and underutilized in certain degrees, but it's just a fun nerdy show, and I do recommend it if you like spy shows. If you like I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like Jackie Chan Adventures to a degree, where like it's a comedy spy show, and like just
Yeah.
zany things happen, and it tries to be serious at the same time.
I remember when the show came out. I never watched it, but I know it's like a cult. I want to say it's
It
definitely
is
a
a cult
cult
classic
classic.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. See, and it's funny looking at my list. I'm like, God, none of these are cult classics. So the one on my list that I think people should watch. First off, if you have no problem with language and things like that, this is the one.
I wonder what it
It's
is.
it's Vice Principals.
Okay, I didn't know.
So Vice Principals was on Max. It has Danny McBride and Walter Goggins as vice principals. So it starts off as their principal is leaving. He's retiring and so they both want the job of being a principal. Well, they hired somebody else. And so now they have never liked each other, but now they want to work together to get rid of this person. Crazy shit happens. And I said it. Yes, I said that. So it, it's just, I can't even explain some of it. First off, don't watch it around your kids because the language is awful. The second thing is like, it's just it's like I can't even explain it. It's like everything that they plan goes wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes wrong in a very, very bad way.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are trying to get this lady to quit or get fired, and then they're going to take the job and they'll not be friends. As this all happens, they start becoming friends. Um, Dan McBride's character is a divorced with a daughter, and his ex-wife, has a new husband who tries to be nice to Danny McBride, and Danny McBride tells him to shut up all the time or he's stupid. And then Walter Goggins and his wife, um, her mom lives with them, so that's just even funnier.
Uh-huh.
Uh, there, season two at the very so I can't really go too much into season two because things happen in season one, but season two finds Walter Goggins being principal, and McBride's character is not, and so that season's even better than the first one. Lots more language though. Tons. So I love the Mighty Gemstones, and it would have been on this list here. But here's what's crazy: it's like the same person that wrote Mighty Gemstones wrote Vice Principals. A lot of the same cast in Vice Principals is in the Mighty Gemstones.
Huh.
It's just it's like a, it's a, I can't even explain like how crazy it is, but it's so good of a show. Is it a drama? Absolutely not. Is it like there's somewhat of a mystery in season two? Yes. But the way they talk to each other is hilarious. It is Oh my gosh. I will do this one spoiler, and this is it. It's been out for a while. The principal that's at this high school, uh, so the very first episode, he's only in one episode. Number one episode is Bill Murray. That's how you know
Yeah.
this is great. Um, and of course, after this, they did Mighty Gemstones. It's the same people that wrote and directed this, did the other.
Mm-hmm.
And this really, to be honest, this is what kind of got Walter Goggins out there. He had done some Tarantino movies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He had done some movies and a couple of shows, but this really kind of like into comedy, and he's hilarious. I love watching the outtakes for this show
Mm-hmm.
because it's just crazy stuff. Yeah, so if and then the best thing is it's only 2 seasons. I don't know how many episodes are in each season, but you could literally binge this over a weekend. It's not a huge watch. Again, I'm going to state this for the podcast. Do not watch with children present. Your children will learn new vocabulary that's not even in the vocabulary of swearing. Okay. Like, I can't even say stuff on our podcast because we'll totally get. I already said one bad word. That's enough. That word is like nothing compared to the show.
It's like what is it? I forget the quote, but I don't know if you know the quote where there's an episode of SpongeBob where they learn how to swear, and they're like, "No, there's 13 bad words, and you shouldn't say any of those." And Squidward's like, "Don't you mean there's only 7? Not if you're a sailor."
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Uh, like I said, like I think I love the show so much because if I'm watching a comedy show and I'm laughing, that's a big deal to me.
Yeah.
Uh, I, I, movies, yes, it gives me the same vibe of Step Brothers a little bit without so much stupidity.
Okay.
Uh, I love Step Brothers, but literally they're like grown children in the movie. That's
Oh
what
yeah,
Will
they are.
Ferrell and John C. Riley are. But this movie is, or this show is so good. And it's funny because, like I said, because this was popular, that's how we got Mighty Gemstones, which I love as well. It didn't make this list because they're doing another season. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it yeah, so you could still binge that one as well. But I love it because of who's in it, and this got me kind of like, oh my gosh. And so when Gemstones came out, I was like, I gotta watch this show. So great show, great show.
Nice, nice, nice. I don't know where I want to go into this because I have 2 curveballs for you. And I don't know where I want to throw these at.
It wouldn't be a podcast if you didn't throw a curveball, especially doing a list.
So I have 2 animated shows on here, because I was looking at my stuff and I was trying to think of like what's a good show that you could just watch and you don't get annoyed of, or annoyed with, I guess I should say. And one of the things that came up, which is a thing that we've talked about semi recently, I feel, is the original Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is only 3 seasons and 61 episodes. I feel like I don't really have to explain Avatar: The Last Airbender, but just in case someone needs to know about it, there's a huge war. Boy was frozen in iceberg. 100 years passed. Boy is important because he's the Avatar and he can master all of the elements in order to stop the big war that is happening. And so there's a bunch of different people who can bend elements, earth, water, air, fire. Those are all the elements that anyone can bend. But depending on your origin of country, your nationality, um, you may only be able to just airbend or waterbend or earthbend or whatever. And it's a very political show, but it's done very well for kids to understand. But it's also just a really good show. So good, in fact, that there's a live action remake of it, and the remake isn't half bad. And then there's
Is
a
it better
sequel as
than
well.
Is it better than M Night's movie?
Oh, we weren't going to talk about that movie. Yeah, there's an M Night Shyamalan movie that's awful. I only I like the two things I like in that movie. I like Prince Zuko in that movie, and I like she was barely in the movie, but she was right at the end. Azula was in the movie. I was like, oh, cool. This person's acting like Azula. Um, but that's the only two things I like about that movie. Everything else in that movie is horrible. Um, but yeah, it's a Nickelodeon show from the, let's say, mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Like 2006 to 9, maybe something like that, or maybe a little earlier than that. Because then there's also Legend of Korra, which was the sequel series. That's also really good. People shouldn't sleep on that because I think that's a really good show as well. It's just different because it had different pacing, and season one was supposed to be the only season, so it kind of wrapped itself up, and then there was more to it after that. But seasons 1 through 3, original Avatar: Last Airbender, are so just self-contained as one story that it's a real treat to watch. I highly recommend it. The music is great, the acting's great. There's a lot of humor. It's very serious as well. Um, it's a cartoon that takes heavy inspiration from anime, so it isn't anime, but from what I've seen and heard in certain interviews and stuff, they really took inspiration from stuff like Fooly Cooly, like FLCL, and you can really see that in like the faces, especially, and just like other like Gynax type things, and yeah, it's you can definitely tell that it's anime inspired, so much so that a lot of people um, misinterpret or mislabel this as anime. It's not, but it's very inspired by that.
Yeah, I remember when the show came out and I was like, this is quite different. Um, it was I feel it's still back in the day when Nickelodeon was doing some pretty cool stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but I grew up with Double Dare, so what am I nothing's gonna top Double Dare. Sorry. So this next one's gonna throw you for a loop because I bet you didn't think I was gonna put this on here. We actually were just talking about it. So Wednesday. Um
Mm.
it's a Netflix exclusive. So Wednesday, there's only one season, but there's already by the time this episode posts, they'll probably be talking about when second season comes out, probably sometime after first of the year. And so basically it takes place with Wednesday Adams going to another boarding school. She'd been kicked out of several others, but this one has people that do magic. This one has like werewolves, it has, witches and all this. So it's like a whole different group of people. And there's a mystery that she has to try and solve of some things where students are being murdered. So it's definitely not like the PG-13 Adams Family movies. It's definitely got a darker tone. The thing I like about this was I think written, but I know it was directed by Tim Burton. So
Mm-hmm.
it's got that Tim Burton vibe to it. Um, it's so well casted, and I love this movie. I know a lot of people were like upset about Gomez's character, because you had Raul Julian before, and
Yeah.
the person that plays him now is short, kind of chubby. They're like,
He's
what?
how he
It's not.
looks in like how he's supposed to look, honestly,
Yeah,
like in like the cartoons and comics and stuff. So
that's the way he looks.
yeah.
And so, but what I loved was the acting. I love the story. There's a lot of things that come up in between here. And then there's some pretty good twists of like just when you think you get the story out, oh snap, this happens. Um,
No Christopher Lloyd though, right? No Uncle Fester, Christopher Lloyd.
no, but the guy that Uncle Fester is in it, and I'm only gonna say that because he's in one of the trailers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh my gosh, when he showed up, it was great because Uncle Fester is weird
I
anyway.
love Uncle Fester. I love Fester's Quest.
And the guy that got to play him nailed it.
Nice.
Just nailed it. It has a lot of good actors and actresses in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's what works for it. So when I got done with season one, I was like, it's over. Season one's over. We gotta wait. Um, and so you kind of gotta wait. Try to remember the one lady's name in this that I can't think of her name, but she was in Game of Thrones. She's very tall, but she is in this as well as the principal. She's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it was a great overall, well done. It is hard for me to find things that Tim Burton has done that I don't like. Let's just throw that out there. I there's a couple directors I like. Tim Burton is on that list. Um, but but the good news is it's one season. I want to say it's like 8 episodes, maybe. I can't remember how many episodes it is. It's a short there, but they're longer episodes. But it's great. It's very dark. This is another one to watch with the kids. It's not really R, but it's above a PG-13ish. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking. There's only 8 episodes, it looks, but ranges from about 45 to 60 minutes or so.
yeah,
Yeah, and then like obviously she's kind of done some other things, but I feel like this show in particular put Jenna Ortega like on the map, like for sure.
I think there was all those jokes about her playing Wednesday Adams, and then she did.
Yeah.
So I think, and she nailed the character. No emotion. You know, I know that dance she does in it was like a meme forever.
Yeah.
I loved it. I like the Adams family. Um, my grandfather used to watch the old episode reruns all the time. And so if it wasn't country or whatever else he was watching or westerns,
Mm-hmm.
that was like my break. Oh my god, he's watching this. So, but I think like I said, this is a great binge watch because you could watch it and then first of the year, brand new season comes out.
Yeah,
So,
that is true. I did see that there was. I think there's a trailer of that, if I remember correctly. The
it's
new
a
one,
teaser.
like a
Yeah, they were
teaser,
talking,
like they're filming like that kind of teaser.
yeah.
Um, but cool. Cool, cool. I have not watched it. Maybe by the time this recording comes out, maybe I have watched it by now. You know, who knows?
It's a quick
Um,
watch.
yeah, yeah, I'm sure it's really good as well. I don't know. I just lately it takes a certain effort or like a certain thing to really grab my attention to make me watch it, or it has to be something that's so I don't know, not mind numbing, but like something where like I've kind of seen it before, so I can kind of like not pay as much attention. And like, I mean, we talked about it before this. Like, I don't know. I'll bring up one of these here in a second, but not the show that I was talking about before, I guess. But like there's certain shows as well where like, oh, I want to play my Switch and I want to grind through an RPG here. Let me go ahead and turn on this comfort show or something like that. Like I don't have King of the Hill on here, but like King of the Hill used to be my show, where I would just have on all the time.
Mhm.
But Hulu has their stuff messed up to where like the later episodes that are 16:9 are cut into 4:3 still for some weird reason, so it's missing the sides.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, I don't get it. But anyway, let's go with my next show. Um, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Do I do this? Wapa. Yeah. I'll do George Lopez. George Lopez show. 6 seasons, 120 episodes. An early 2000s comedy featuring George Lopez and his family. George is the comedian George Lopez. But he plays like a fictional version of himself where he works at a factory on the line for Powers Aviation. So they make a lot of airplane parts for all types of airplanes. And he's been on the line forever. In the first episode, he is now promoted to being a manager because he's been there long enough and he knows just his things. And so they promoted him. So it's him trying to deal with like being a manager, but also trying to deal with like his friends and family who work there, as well as just his friends and family outside of work, deal with his annoying daughter, deal with their stupid son, honestly. Like they talk about a lot about like, oh, he's not dumb, he's he has learning disabilities. He has dyslexia, and like I feel like this is one of like the first. I don't know if George Lopez actually has dyslexia, but like I feel like this is one of the first shows that like really like talked about dyslexia like a lot, like so much so like made it a talking point of like, oh, this is important to have these special classes to like help kids learn, and not be left behind. And like it showed that, oh, Max is being left behind because his school curriculum sucks. But and they act like, oh yeah, he's not dumb, it's just he has a learning disability. Well, like later throughout the show you realize no, he's just a dumb kid too. And so like it's he just does stupid things, teenage kid things.
Oh yeah.
And so just yeah. But and then the daughter is not great either. Like she's kind of a bad character, but she's written so well to be a bad character that I mean they did their job. I hate her. So like I think there is something to that. And then like yeah, his wife is really funny. His the character, the woman who plays his mom is hilarious. And then the man who plays the wife's dad is also hilarious. He's one of the best characters. I'm glad that they brought him to be more of a main character in like season 3 or 4, because like yeah, he can steal the show sometimes because of just how flanderized he is, I guess, to a degree, where he's just very much a one note, oh, I'm Cuban, I hate Castro this, Castro that. And he has like a really, really thick accent, but like he also does funny things that you just wouldn't think of as well. And so he is flanderized in that sense of like he seems kind of like a stereotype, but same time like they kind of make you think outside of the box with some of his jokes, or he does different things that you just don't expect. This is a meme show for the longest time, along with like Inuyasha or something, where this show is just playing at like 3 a.m. and it wakes you up. Because there's a lot of like old TikToks. I say old, like 3 years ago TikToks, and where it's like, oh, you sleeping and with the TV on, and all of a sudden at 3 a.m. you hear like the cowbell from Lowrider play, and you wake up and it's just George Lopez on TV, because it used to be on Nick at Night for the longest time.
Yeah.
And that's really where I watched it, because I never really watched it on like prime time or anything. I watched it all on Nick at Night. And so I've been going through it again because on Paramount Plus. And Paramount Plus, side tangent, Paramount Plus, when it works, it is wait, not Paramount Plus, excuse me, Peacock. When it works, it's a really, really good service. Paramount Plus,
Yeah.
Paramount Plus isn't that good anymore. I was watching
No.
Frasier recently, and because new Frasier started, and that bit rate is chunky and bad, and it's not my Xbox, it's not the internet, it's just those specific new videos are bad.
Yeah, I watched Tulsa King and that was happening.
But then I watched like Ghosts or something like that. That's a CBS All Access, but it's through Paramount, and that's fine. So I think it's just like the Paramount originals are bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, not Paramount, Peacock. And yeah, George Lopez is on Peacock, so you can watch it there. And yeah, 6 seasons, 120 episodes. Episodes go by pretty quickly. I don't know how long an episode technically is, but they feel like they're 22 minutes, maybe less technically if you take out the opening song, because Lowrider seems like it's a really long song. Yeah, it's a fun time. I enjoy it. I like George Lopez. I don't like his new show though.
I think because I've done so much comedy, I should go for a drama. And hearing you talk about George Lopez, because I do think he's funny. I love seeing him in movies. He was great in Blue Beetle.
Yes.
I love this character. So we're gonna talk about a drama. It's called Justified. So I, believe it or not, I found this on TikTok. It started showing up as clips, right? It's about a U.S. Marshal named Waylon Givens, who's from Kentucky, and he is working several cases in that area as a U.S. Marshal. And there's 6 seasons here. This is the second time I saw Walton Goggins, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I know him. That's uh, Baby Billy Friedman from Mighty Gemstones." And but it's such a good drama. So he's each season deals with something else. So Walling, uh, so it's so funny because um, who I love is Billy, Baby Billy. In this show is like a very very bad man, very bad man, and like all seasons he's not a good person. He is just ruthless. He used to work in the coal mines, so he knows how to blow up stuff. I mean, he's just a ruthless person. So, but it gets so good, like you start seeing more bad guys, you start seeing more people. You know, some major actors and actresses show up in the seasons. But it's just a great, great show. And his dad lives in Kentucky, and his dad gets in trouble with the law all the time. Um, but the cool thing about it is it reminds me of like an old western. So like the main character, there's several times where he gets into a shootout, and it's like a draw. Like it's like literally like if you move, I'm going to draw on you, and I'm going to shoot. And it's so quick, like an old school western, but it takes place, newer.
Mm-hmm.
They just came out with, I think it was this year, early this year, they did one. It's called Primal. It's called Justified Primal, and it takes place in Florida. Uh, and that's good too. They only got one season, but definitely something to do. So Justified had 6 seasons. Each episode is around, I'd say like 45 minutes to an hour. Um, there's a character in there named Dewey who's in like, I would say, majority of the seasons. Funny story. So I started watching another show, and it takes place in Australia. That guy's actually from Australia,
Hmm.
but he has a thick Kentucky accent in the show.
Huh.
And yet he's actually Australian, New Zealand, I think, or something along those lines. So great show. Um, if you want to watch it, it is pretty violent because you're dealing with like drug dealers and stuff like that. But it is a great show. I almost put Sopranos on here, but that's just such a, you either love Sopranos or you don't. And 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 their shows are just, some shows are great, but I wanted to put this on here because I don't think enough people have watched this show.
Mm.
It's such a good show.
Nice. I have not watched it. I'll say that.
I started watching it, like I said, I started seeing clips on TikTok. I think they could just tell like, hey, he likes movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
And when I found it, it was so funny. I found it. So I was telling my dad, I said, "Have you watched this show?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I used to watch that show all the time when I had like regular cable." I was like, "Why did you not tell me about this?" And I was reading, they got this new season because of how much it was like people were trying to watch the show. That's how they got the new season. Also,
Yeah, I can see that.
the main character was in Mandalorian.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, 2010 to 2015. Huh.
It blew up overnight, and then like literally like this year, they got a brand new season. So
It's crazy.
I know.
That's awesome. All right. I'll give you the choice. Do you want me to talk about my last animated show, or do you want me to talk about my last live action show?
Animated, because I got a feeling I think I know what the
Do
live
you?
action. I'm probably wrong, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, I got this. But yeah, the animated show that you put on there, because when we were joking before, he was like, it's One Piece. One Piece is not a bingeable show.
No,
I
it's
mean, it
not.
kind of is if
It
you
will
don't
be
mind.
soon, maybe, when the Madhouse does their remake of One Piece. Because that's
True.
coming for Netflix eventually. No, this is not anime. I will say that as well. No, I'm curious. I don't know. What were you thinking? This This is 4 seasons, 54 episodes. What show do you think this is?
Your last live action show?
No, my last animated show.
Oh, I don't know about animated. I was thinking of your last.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
That
you
one
want me? So you want me to do my animated show right now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, my animated show is 4 seasons and 54 episodes. This show is a DC AU show. It is not Static Shock. It's not. I love Static Shock, but it's not Static Shock. I'm sorry. It's also not Batman. It's not Batman. It's Superman. I've talked about Superman before.
Yeah, I need to watch that.
It's so good. It's on Blu-ray. It's so good. It's a perfect show. I love Tim Daly as Superman, and the other guy for Justice League does a really good job too. There's just something about Tim Daly just captures just all aspects of Clark and Kal-El. He does a really good job of acting, being like a confident Superman, and then also being a bumbling Clark. And his voice just fits just very, very well. Superman the Animated Series is the second DCAU show after Batman, and it kind of was airing at the same time as the New Adventures of Batman and Robin, I believe. So like when Batman the Animated Series kind of like got like a refresh in design and stuff, there were a few like crossover episodes with Superman. So like there were some where like Superman went to Gotham and Batman was missing or whatever. And I really like how much of a prototype this is to Justice League, because it does build upon things, but it's still a small enough scope to where like you're not distracted by other things. You're not distracted by other superheroes. You're not distracted by other cities. You're really just, we're in Metropolis. We're dealing with Metropolis things, or occasionally Gotham. Now, after Superman the Animated Series, that's when Justice League and all that kind of stuff, Static Shock and then Justice League, Batman Beyond, all that kind of stuff starts. And then the scope gets much, much larger. But Superman, in my opinion, like there might be like one bad episode, but Superman the Animated Series is a perfect show. It's another one of those shows where it has a really, really good pilot. So much so that like I believe there's some DVDs as well as some VHS tapes that like call it like Superman the movie essentially, and there's like 3 episodes to the pilot, and it starts off with like the very beginning of like most of the first episode is the very beginning of Krypton like being about to explode and all of that. You see the beginnings of like Brainiac to a degree. You see Kal-El be thrown in to the pod. You see how they treat Jor-El, how Jor-El's trying to warn all of Krypton, like, hey, Brainiac's lying to us. The planet is going to explode, and they don't trust him. So then they try to kill Jor-El, and then the planet explodes, and he's like, told you, and that all happens. And so you get to see Clark, Kal-El like grow up. So like the second episode, I forget if it's the second episode or not, maybe, but like for quite a while, like you get to see Clark be Clark. Like you get to see him be taken in by Ma and Pa Kent. You get to see him grow up and live in Smallville and like learn his powers for a little bit. And then you get to see him like be an adult and go to Metropolis to work at the Daily Planet and do all of that. And then it becomes a superhero show, obviously. Like it's a dual identity or secret identity where like he has to report on himself and also just like try to keep his secret safe. It's very I want to say wholesome, I guess it is to a degree, but like it's just very good. And for most DCEU or DCAU, excuse me, not EU. EU is the movies. The yeah, for most DCAU things, um, they don't baby their audience, and so I
Yeah,
really do appreciate that of this show. Like, yeah, there may be some things that might be like age appropriate for everyone, or just might be some weird stuff here or there with censoring, but the show doesn't feel juvenile. It doesn't feel like I'm watching the Bat Cars show or whatever on HBO Max. You know what I mean? Like it feels like I'm watching a show that a whole family can enjoy.
yeah. Um, and I always liked. I remember when that was out. People loved it. I remember it on Saturday mornings with that Batman, Animaniacs, and a bunch of other WB shows. So that's pretty awesome. Well, since you did that, I'm like debating which one. I'm just gonna do the one that I know you know of that I'm gonna say, and it's called a little show called What We Do in the Shadows.
So this is what I
And
thought you were going to talk about earlier.
yeah, there are 5 seasons. The sixth season is coming very soon. This is the sixth season is the last season. This is why I love the show. It is a mockumentary. Okay. So it looks like it's a documentary of basically the fun part is it's about these three vampires and they're familiar. Uh and they live in New York or Jersey. But it's fun because like they're all from like way back in the past. So like fun things of like they when they talk about like emails, they call it the email. Um, it's a fun show there. Alex is probably gonna start laughing when I say the clip that I sent him all the time of Laszlo. So basically, this was a mockumentary done several years ago. They turned it into a show. Uh, it has some horror aspect to it, but for the most part, it is like a comedy. So like there are three normal vampires and then an energy vampire. So the energy vampire's name is Colin Robinson, and they don't call him Colin. They call him Colin Robinson, first and last name every single time. So what he does is how he feeds is he bores you so much, and the more you're bored, that's how he feeds off of you. He doesn't actually bite you like the other ones do. Um, it's quite hilarious. But like listening to them be in like, now's time there. Also, it has Mr. Matt Berry in there. So love Matt Berry. I knew who Matt Berry was from the Mighty Boosh. And
Yeah.
so when I saw him, I'm like, that guy was in Mighty Boosh. I should watch this. It started off really small and just blew up. And you can watch it on Netflix right now. Most episodes are between like 40-45 minutes, not very long. Um, they are almost ready for their newest season. This is their last season, which is unfortunate, but you know, for a show to last 6 seasons is pretty good. The good news is you can binge watch the crap out of this. It's so funny. Um, I I I think one of my favorite episodes is when they go to the mall because they've never been to a mall before. Uh, you know, or Matt Berry is explaining things that are there.
Mm-hmm.
On my list, this is yet another one. Don't watch in front of your children. But I'm trying to get Alex to watch it so he can text me and go, "What did I just watch?" That's the response I want. Is like, "What did I just spend an hour of my time watching?"
Yeah.
It's it's so funny. It's one of my favorite shows. They make several jokes about Twilight in there,
Mm-hmm.
which is a win-win for me because I am not a fan of the Twilight movies. They're not very good. Let's just throw it out there. They're just not very good. I was waiting every one of those. I was like, do you know how cool it'd be if Blade just flipped out of a tree and just took out a couple of them? That'd be sweet. Never happened. So
No, it didn't. Okay. Do you know what my last thing is then?
I want to say it's Frasier, but I could be
No,
wrong.
it's not.
Really?
It's not. I forgot about Frasier, honestly.
But it's
Uh,
a live action, so this is very interesting.
it shouldn't be interesting for me. Although I don't know. I don't talk about this show a lot anymore. The show has the show has 8 seasons. It technically has 9 seasons. We don't talk about the ninth season. There's 182 episodes technically. I don't know how many there are without the ninth season. Probably minus 13. This is an NBC show. This is a show that was on NBC until like 2008, 2009, and then had to move to ABC, and then it died. Do you know what this is?
I want to say The Office, but it's that was all on the same channel, right?
It was. This is not The Office. This show is Scrubs, starring Zach Braff and Donald Faison.
I should have said that because I know you've talked about how much you love Scrubs.
I do love Scrubs. I own every single season on DVD. Yeah, Scrubs is 182 episodes, 9 seasons technically. Again, season 9 exists. We don't talk about season 9 because it doesn't exist. And seasons 1 through 8 are a treat. Every season just gets better and better. Season 7 is an interesting one though, because that's the first one where they moved to ABC, and then season 8 is their finale season, because there was an actual like series finale at the end of that. I think it was called like My Finale, and because every episode is called like my something, and so I'm pretty sure they had the last episode of that season called My Finale. And then the studio wanted more money, and so they did Scrubs Interns, but they didn't want to call it Scrubs Interns, and so instead they called it Scrubs, and so it became season 9, and it didn't do well, and then it got canceled because it wasn't filmed in the same hospital anymore, since that hospital didn't exist. Like they destroyed it, and they also just didn't have a lot of the same characters anymore. The only ones who were there were the actor who plays Dr. Cox, and then Donald Faison was there, and Zach Braff was like sometimes there, but he wasn't the main character anymore. They like moved to someone else. Scrubs is a dramedy, I would say, a drama comedy. It can get really serious at times, but then it can also just be really stupid comedy. And it's about people who work at a hospital, doctors in trainings, residents, who then just become more and more in the field until they become actual doctors by like probably season 3, let's say. And so it mainly just follows one character, John Dorian, JD, again, Zach Braff, and not Zachary Levi, and the main comedy with this show is that he gets a lot of daydreams, so there's a lot of cutaway gags in this show. So think of like Family Guy to a degree with cutaway gags, except it's live action, and the main character is generally in those cutaway gags reacting to something, instead of just Family Guy being like, everyone Mr. Conway Twitty, and then like it's just something different, you know. And so a lot of like the older cutaway gags in like season 1 aren't super great because they're just kind of awkward, but then they get better. But you have a lot of inner monologue of JD, and you just get to learn about the life of the hospital, how he's dealing with things like his friends, his love life, just the work in general. All the side characters are really, really good. Rest in peace. What's his name? Lloyd. What's his name? He's Christopher Lloyd's relative, and he plays Ted. He plays the lawyer, like the really
Mhm.
incompetent, sweaty lawyer. And this is another one of those shows where, like, if the pilot doesn't hook you, I'm sorry, but like the pilot is another perfect pilot. Like, this is an episode I can watch multiple times and never get tired of. Because they, like, the very, very beginning is like when they're having their seminar about here's what you do at the hospital, and Ted is like, oh, the hospital doesn't want to get sued. Don't upset the patient. Don't kill them. Don't do any of these things. Don't tell them anything. But if they're already dead and you're sure, you can tell them anything you want. He's like,
Yeah.
it looks like, oh, he's done this before. But the janitor is also another excellent character. I can't think of his name right now. I mean, his name in the show is the janitor, but I can't think of his actual name. But he plays the dad later on. He plays the dad in the middle. And so, like, the janitor was his like really big role, I believe, except being in The Fugitive as like a police officer or something. And they even play that in Scrubs, where JD watches The Fugitive and then he sees the janitor in that movie. He's like, "Wait, are you an actor? Is this you?" And there's just a whole episode about that, which is really funny. But yeah, it's just a fun comedy. It is a long one. If you really get into it, each season, you have to watch this in order. This is one of those shows where you have to watch this in order, otherwise things won't make sense. The relationships won't make sense. There is a timeline to the will they won't they's. There's a timeline to people have kids, people have marriages, and so just things wouldn't make sense if you don't watch it in order. But it is a treat. Season 6 is really good in my opinion. Season 1's really good. Season 6 has the My Musical episode, which is hilarious and weird at the same time, because it has really good music in it. But yeah, I touched on this a little bit, but season 7 and 8 are definitely different because the show was gonna like I believe it was gonna get canceled, or it did technically get canceled by NBC for season 6, and then ABC bought it. Or maybe they didn't renew it. I think that's what it was. I think ABC technically owned the show to a degree, but it was on NBC since NBC paid for it because they believed in it more.
Sure.
And so after NBC was like, we don't want to pay for this anymore, then ABC's all right, we'll grab it back. And then they finished it out. And yeah, it's an excellent show. I recommend it. It is a little bit dated. But like, I don't know if doctors still use pagers or anything. I really don't know if they do, but
Oh no.
but like there's certain like devices and things where you can, there's a suspension of like disbelief, you know, like there isn't a lot of technology because you're just in a hospital. And so like the technology that you see the most part are just like, yeah, pagers, or like maybe like a Palm Pilot PDA, something like that. Or otherwise it's just hospital equipment in this old computers and TVs because it's just a hospital. But otherwise it doesn't really date itself too much on the humor. If anything, the humor itself is older than the show, because there's a lot of just like callbacks to like old things. Like man, I forget his name, but like, yeah, there's just so many different things in that show, but without rambling too much longer, but yeah, it's just excellent. Everyone should go watch it. I do want to warn everyone though, the DVDs, this is another thing like Mission Hill or something like that I may have talked about before, but the DVDs are different from the streaming because there's something with the way that streaming rights versus printing rights back then worked for music. And so if you watch it on streaming, the certain music that was decided for certain scenes will just be a different song entirely. And so you won't get the same emotional impact necessarily, because it's just a completely different song. Like, granted, it was probably curated to try to be like, this fits the beat, this fits the feelings that we're doing, but it's not the original intention. So if you're able to, I'd recommend just finding the DVDs and just buying those, because they're really cheap. They're really, really cheap. You can find all 8 seasons of Scrubs for probably less than $50.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah,
It,
Scrubs, it's
it,
great.
it's so funny because I was like, oh, Family Guy's bingeable. No, it's like 30 seasons or whatever. But this show here is it's definitely bingeable. It was a hard one to pick because we had to pick five, but I am picking Parks and Rec. And here's my thing. So when I first started watching The Office, I loved it. And I worked at a place and we were on a business trip with another guy. He's brand new, younger, was like, oh my God, why are you not watching Parks and Rec? I always take my tablet because I get bored. And so I was like, I'm gonna start watching it. I was up till 3 a.m. watching episodes. This is like Chris Pratt's like starring thing here. But like there's so many characters I love, like Ron Swanson or any of these characters or Leslie Nope. Um, it takes place in like Parks and Rec in an Indiana town, right? Which is even funnier because it's like a small, not like a giant area.
Yeah.
But it's just so it's another mockumentary where it's like a bunch of people are following them around and stuff like that. And it is just super funny. So Leslie Knope's character loves sugar, and it's like there's times where she's just like eating tons of sugar, and you're just like, holy crap. And then Chris Pratt's an idiot in this. Like it literally is his character's stupid.
Yeah.
And so, but they all play really well with each other. Uh, there's a guy that they always blame stuff on, and they find out like in season like 4 that that's not his real name. And so they've been calling him the wrong name for several seasons. Like, actually, this is my name now. This is like actually my name. Was it really? Yeah, it's been this way the whole time. And they blame him, and he's like, "Oh, you're right. It is my fault." And so, like, there's that.
He changed his name
Lot,
like 3 times, I think, too.
yeah,
Like, he officially, like, legally changed his name, I believe, because they kept calling him the wrong name.
yeah, and so like, it's such a good show. It kind of has those lines of The Office where you have your certain characters you like. Not really a Dwight Schrute in there, but there are other characters in there that are pretty great. Uh, and I think the good news is it is 7 seasons, but it's really easy to watch. You could literally watch one season and be like, okay, I'll watch another season in a couple days, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's very bingeable. It it's one of those things where during COVID they actually did a live reading of the show. They did like a live show, and it brought it back. Like it was another one like The Office where they did their seasons, show ended, got canceled or whatever, and then they came back and they blew up. The Office has blown up to the point where they're doing a new Office show. I wouldn't be surprised if Parks and Rec got a new show somewhere. I don't
Yeah.
know how it would work today, but like these seasons are so good. Um, and later seasons they get more new characters like Craig. I love Craig. Craig yells all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Craig's great. So if you know who Billie Eilish is, Billy on the Street, that's Craig's character. That's him in real life. It really is. It's a crazy. Once I watched him on Billy on the Street, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like the same person, like legitimately
Yeah.
yelling. Um, there's only one character that I can live without in the show.
Please don't tell me. Please don't say who.
Which one do you think?
Do you hate Aziz?
I don't think he's funny.
So I was about to say Aziz Ansari is he was in that last season of Scrubs, the Scrubs interns, and that kind
Mhm.
of aired at the same time as this as well. So like he kind of just like got two things that came out at the same time, and one took off and one didn't. So good thing I guess Parks and Rec took off.
Now I will say his best friend that shows up in
John
many episodes,
Ralphio, yeah,
John Raffio, is hilarious.
Sonic the
Who,
Hedgehog.
yeah, so he is It's even better when his sister shows up. Like literally, there's a scene. I don't think it was scripted, and I'm gonna talk about it. There's a scene where that he opens his own store where you can like rent clothes, and he hires um his sister, and he goes because the whole time this guy always sings, and he
Mm-hmm.
like is singing, and he turns to Adam Scott and sings right in his ear.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look scripted.
Yeah.
Like he just sang it Adams because he's like, oh no, she's the worst. And he does his little worst thing, his little singing he does in his ear. It's great. He goes, no, no, she's awful. And like it's so
Yeah.
funny. Like there's a scene where they fake their own death and they're like singing about being suspicious. And
Yeah,
somebody
that was
goes,
a TikTok meme for the longest time.
yeah, like John Raffio?
Yeah.
Uh Henry Winkler's in the show.
I know the
Several times.
Fonz is their dad.
Yeah. Um, and so like it's such a great show about a small town. I grew up in a small town. I'm like, oh my God, these people live in my small town.
Mm-hmm.
But it's 7 seasons. You could definitely watch it pretty quickly. Um, if you're from a small town ever, you're like, oh my gosh, I get it. I totally get it. Like I love what they were doing. Like, we're gonna have a forum where you can come ask questions. And this lady's like, there's a sign that says don't drink the water, and I drank the water. Now I don't feel good. What are you going to do about it?
I know.
Or the sandwich one where like there was a sandwich, it was sitting on a park bench and I ate it. It wasn't very good. What are you doing about it? Like that's how funny this show is.
Yeah, because it's
Because they're
so
like,
true. Those kind
no,
of
yeah,
people show
it's
up to those things all the time.
exactly. So there's like I said, this is a great show for you to binge watch during the holidays. Uh, I know that I've watched Parks and Rec 3 times now.
Oh
I
wow.
haven't watched as much as the Trailer Park Boys, um, which I love that show.
Yeah.
I don't know why I watch it. It's that is my King of the Hill to you. Like
Mm.
I could put it on and just have it running as I work or whatever.
Yeah.
But there. So yeah, so that was our bingeable shows for the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And these were not in specific orders of what was number one out of five. These are just there. We are on break for the holidays, but do you know what's not on break is you going to Spotify, hitting that follow button so you can get all of our new updates as they come up. We will try to be pretty active still on Facebook, X, and Instagram as much as we possibly can. But we will still post episodes when we normally have episodes come out. Um, so yeah. Um, Alex, do you have anything else to say?
I'm gonna yes, actually. Before we do our thing, I do want to say really quick. Well, first of all, happy holidays. But yeah, we didn't talk about The Office. We didn't talk about Seinfeld on purpose because we wanted to talk about other things that
Yes.
we just don't want you to hear the same stuff over and over again. You know what I mean? So there's that. But do I have anything else to say? Get at it. Happy holidays.
Get at it and happy holidays.